Good morning, fam. What is going on? It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Can I get a roll tide up in the comment box? I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today is October 29th. Today on the show, we're talking Alabama basketball defeating Memphis in an exhibition game yesterday in Huntsville. You got Alabama football. It is not over for the Crimson Tide by any stretch of the imagination. A ton of football still left to play. We're going to talk about the transfer impact and how this transfer portal has impacted Alabama this season. We're going to talk about the freshman report. I'm going to ask you your take on Ohio State versus Penn State. It's college football game of the week, and I appreciate you guys being here right here on Bama Football on YouTube. What's up, Max? Tim Pitt, Justin, what's going on? Justin DeBoer up in the house. I appreciate everybody for joining me today on Bama Football on YouTube. How's everybody doing? Rate your day so far on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being elite, 1 being haven't had your coffee yet. Justin DeBoer, what's up, man? I appreciate it. My day, I say I'm off to a pretty good start. I'm gonna say like 9. Is that too high? I'm gonna say 9. So I'm playing with the time too. I kind of wanted to look at my schedule, and I think like looking at the analytics, it might make a little bit more sense to go live at 10 as opposed to 9. So I was like, if I'm gonna try it, might as well try it during the bye week. All right. So, but the bye week doesn't mean that it's an off week, because there's still a lot to go over every single day, and I appreciate we're gonna go heavy the entire football season. All right, and I like to work, period. Lynn, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for reaching out yesterday. Got your message, man. Thank you so much. Myron, what's going on? Jeff, good morning to you, man. A lot of positivity this morning. That's good. That's what's up. I like to see it. I'm having the coffee though. Look, I have coffee throughout the morning time. That's part of me. So I hope I hope you've had your coffee. All right, let's talk about this Alabama basketball team. All right, let's show them some love. This team is fantastic and off to a really good start in 2 exhibition games. So yesterday they defeated Memphis by a score of 96-88. That game was up in Huntsville. There was a couple guys not in action yesterday. You had I think Grant Nelson, Youngblood. There was a couple big time ballers that were missing from the lineup, but still, I went through the box score and I had some check marks. So check marks for me are things that stood out in a positive way, things that circle are really important. So let's go over it up at the top. You got LeBaron Philon, who's an absolute phenom. He had 17 points. He was 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 5 from three-point land. And you see, there was a ton of fouls in this game, right? We're accustomed to seeing a ton of penalties, but I think this exhibition game yesterday, I think it had 60 plus fouls in the game, which is absolutely crazy. So in a game like that, you want to see how you do at the line, right? You see now Mark Sears, he had 20 points, 5 of 10, 3 of 5 from downtown, 7 of 10, 70% from the free throw line. And then you start to look to Aiden Holloway, didn't have his best night, 2 of 8 from the field, 1 of 6 from outside, only 2 of 4 from the free throw line. But I look to Clifford Amore. Now, he's the big man that Alabama brought in this season from Rutgers. And I thought if there was a missing component last year from Alabama's basketball team, I think we can all agree that it was having a big man. And get used to talking Alabama basketball in here, because, I mean, how can we not highlight this basketball team? I mean, they're absolutely exceptional, ranked number 2 in all of the land right now, which is absolutely unbelievable. And credit to Nate Oates and the job that he continues to do. So let's go over this basketball stat box in a little bit of detail. So Chris Amore comes in, he has 10 points. And one of the areas that I circle is on the far right. You got 10 rebounds. That's what you need, right? You have the defensive rebounds 8, but overall rebounds 10. And then you look to, who's really impressive is Diabate. I think last year he was really good, and I think this year he's going to have a breakout season. Now, he's a guy I would imagine that comes off the bench, 11 points, he's 6 of 8. You have Daniel Denny saying that Holloway sucks. I'm sure you're upset about that, but he has 8 boards as well. So overall, I like this team. I mean, you got a little taste of Houston Mallett, who's another transfer in. He was 3 of 5 from outside. So overall, shooting from outside your 38%, which is fantastic at this point in time during the season. This is a team, the one of the best things about watching this basketball team is the up tempo, and these guys aren't afraid to shoot, right? Like, it's exciting basketball to watch. I go back to the game last year against North Carolina. That was probably one of the best basketball games I've ever watched. Like, from start to finish, those guys being able to come up, and Grant Nelson absolutely came in and absolutely crushed it. So from the charity stripe, you're only 62%. That certainly needs to bump up. And then from the field, you are 48%. So I appreciate it. Kyle needs a team so he can cover all Bama sports. Yeah, I love it, man. The basketball team absolutely deserves some coverage, man. So we're going to do that right here on Bama Football on YouTube. All right, looking at the Alabama basketball schedule, they've played in 2 exhibition games thus far. But when you start to look at the schedule, these teams aren't afraid to welcome big opponents this coming season, right? You got, as you kind of look to the slate, you got Purdue, which is going to be amazing. That is going to be on the road. Last year, Purdue was able to beat Alabama early on in the season. Then you got Illinois. That's part of the CM Newton Classic. That'll be in Birmingham. And then you have Houston, Rutgers, North Carolina, and Creighton. So this season is going to be fantastic. And how about them playing North Dakota? In North Dakota. I'm pretty sure that's where Grant Nelson's from, right? So that is really interesting. And then when you look to the overall rankings, I mean, look at this, right? Here's the AP, I guess, top 12. I just listed the top 12 because it lined up clean. You got Kansas, Bama, Kentucky. Kentucky. I'm not even in the top 10. UConn, Houston, Iowa State, Gonzaga, Duke, Baylor, North Carolina, Arizona, Auburn, and Tennessee. So head coach Nate Oates, who's been here since 2019, I've seen Nate Oates in action. I've seen him continue to come with it every single season. So in 2020, 2021, Sweet 16, then a round of 64, Sweet 16, a Final Four this last year, which is absolutely crazy to cover. And right now, number 2 in the AP poll, and you're returning a ton of talent, right? You got Sears coming back, Nelson, Wrightsell. Wrightsell was another guy who didn't play yesterday, and added 6'11" Amori from the portal, and really excited about this team overall. Look, as I wanted to say, like, going into this season, Alabama is definitely not done. And when you look to the entire picture of college football, there is so much football left to be played. Currently, Alabama has a 53% chance to make the playoffs per ESPN. And one of the things that I want you guys to get used to is, like, I know we're talking like the AP top 25 and this and that. Well, coming this Tuesday, after this weekend of play in November, we won't be talking about the AP at all. You won't be talking about the coaches poll at all, because you got the college football playoff rankings that'll be listed every single Tuesday night. So it's already that time. And just because Alabama is ranked number 14 or whatever inside, the AP, that doesn't mean anything compared to the college football playoff rankings. For example, like, I would imagine that Alabama, I wouldn't be surprised right now if the college football playoff rankings, depending on the shakeout of this weekend, because you got to think that Ohio State or Penn State loses with kind of the shuffling, probably someone gets upset. I wouldn't be surprised to see like Alabama like 11 or 12, right? And 12 teams make the playoffs. So keep your eye closed. I would imagine they might even be higher. Seriously, they might even be higher. And I think one of the reasons that Alabama might be higher is because of the SEC, the overall strength. I think it's really going to carry weight. I think now, at this point in time, we didn't understand just how good the conference was in the parity early on in the season. I think we do now. And I think something that reiterated that was the fact that Vanderbilt nearly beat Texas. So you see, like, it's not the old Vanderbilt. They don't have just a good team. Like, what has happened now is the transfer portal impact, and that's caused parity. You look at Kentucky almost beating Georgia. You look to Texas A&M now leading, right? Elko's pumping his chest a little bit. You hear him talking, he's like, this is a program. This isn't somebody that just talks fast and is a salesman. He's like, this is a program. So if you want to win, come here. Looks like Texas A&M has finally got their coach. Now, with that said, they still got some games that they got to win on the back end of the schedule. They haven't wrapped up the SEC, and I think even winning the SEC or even getting to the SEC championship game for Texas A&M is going to be difficult to do. To be honest, I think Georgia would beat Texas A&M handedly. I would love to see Texas A&M and Texas, and we'll get that opportunity at the back end of the season. So, and maybe Texas isn't all they are hyped up to be. I don't know. Remember, Alabama beat Georgia, and Georgia beat Texas. That's going to come in ultra handy, right? But I think what the committee will realize, and how could you not, is that the strength of the SEC, like where would BYU and Iowa State be in the SEC? Come on. You know what's helping out Notre Dame is that win over Texas A&M. That's why they keep climbing up in the rankings. Where would Miami be in the SEC? You know who's a team that's flying under the radar right now? Clemson. Nobody talks about Clemson. Dabo Swinney basically got canceled. Nobody wanted him here. Nobody talks about Clemson anymore because he doesn't go to the transfer portal, right? Nobody talks about Clemson. Clemson's only loss is to Georgia, and they played Georgia close to that first half. And then they just basically went under the radar, and they keep winning football games. I would imagine if I polled everybody right now that we would probably assume that Clemson beats Miami. And I think that Clemson is probably going to be the team that does beat Miami, should Miami be undefeated the remainder of the season into the ACC championship game. JS Webbs, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Good morning to you. Bravo D, what's up, man? Appreciate you. Got to see these guys in the Western quarterfinals 2 games. This is awesomeness. What's up, Bravo? I appreciate you being here, man. Lance, what's going on? Texas hyped every year for 40 years. I know, and the biggest thing that Texas has ever done is beat Alabama. Honestly, they probably have a trophy about beating Alabama. That's how big it was for their program, and it really did come at the perfect time, right? You beat Coach Saban right before you enter the SEC. So Steve Sarkisian can now say, "Hey, we beat the best," right? We can get you to the ultimate level. And yeah, they're ready for the SEC. A team that's not is clearly Oklahoma. Daniel Denny, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. And as you look, and I'm going to talk about the rest of Alabama's schedule here in a second. You know, LSU, that game is concerning for a lot of different reasons. I'm starting to feel a lot more confident going into that game. I'll show you a graphic why. The Auburn game always is weird. And I think Hugh Freeze, they just won a game. They got just a tiny little momentum. If they were to upset Alabama, that would be like their Super Bowl. They ran last year on Coach Saban. They ran all over the place. What'd they run for, like 250? Undefeated teams are going to lose. Penn State, I would imagine they lose this coming weekend. I'm going to ask you guys about that here in a minute. Miami, I would imagine they lose at some point in time. Iowa State and BYU, if those 2 teams don't lose within the regular season, they play each other. One of them will lose. And then, you know what would be kind of cool is if BYU runs the table and BYU has a home playoff game and maybe it's snowing. That BYU football stadium is amazing. Up in, I believe it's in Provo. I just seen like pictures on the backdrop with like the huge mountains. And then I think this last point is probably the most interesting. What's up, Jonesy? I appreciate you being here, man. Hey, Joseph, what's up, man? You can't play like a non-playoff team. And what that means to me is going into LSU is going to be challenging because it's at Death Valley. Their quarterback's very good. They got weapons. They don't have the defense that Alabama has seen against Tennessee or against Missouri. Right? Even as terrible as Missouri was, they do have a good defense. LSU does not have a good defense. They have a good offense, but they don't have a good defense. But you can't play like a non-playoff team because, you know, there's that Bama fatigue factor that exists. But also they have to kind of walk the fine line because they know Bama drives ratings. They don't want to leave Bama out in the bigger picture because they know people watch Bama because people either hate Bama or they love Bama. No, Daniel, Bama doesn't play Texas A&M this season in the regular season. Hypothetically, I would imagine that Alabama beats Texas A&M, but who knows? You got to take care of business. You got to beat. The margin of victory doesn't have to be too large against LSU. I think you just get out there with the W. I think you need style points against Mercer. I think you need style points against Oklahoma. And I think you need style points against Auburn. Because if you don't have those style points, they're going to be like, look, the games you lost, you didn't play like a playoff team. You didn't lose by like some sort of last second field goal or like some weird thing. You got beat straight up. They got beat by Tennessee straight up, and they got beat by Vanderbilt straight up. Jarvis, thank you, man. You're saying what I'm trying to say. You got to impress the committee, right? But the chances of Alabama being like knocked out, it's not over. You beat LSU, and your hopes are still alive. And we know that a loss, you're out, period. That you lose, you're out. All right, as we kind of dive into this game, Saturday, November 9th, I need to update the time. The time's going to be at 6:30. Did you hear Coach Kiffin complaining about the time? He was like, oh, LSU gets another night game. I wish our fans could enjoy a night game. You know, the thing is, man, the game is all money-based. And Ole Miss, that's why I think Lane Kiffin has outgrown Ole Miss. Like, despite, the seasons that he's putting together, and he's winning games. If he beats Georgia, that would be gigantic for his career. But Ole Miss is not the brand, right? LSU and Alabama, that game supersedes anything that Ole Miss is doing. It just does. People don't see Ole Miss on that platform. They see him as kind of a team that's climbing, but they don't see him as Alabama and LSU. So when they're putting together the TV ratings, they're like, oh, Bama, LSU. Now, they would have wished that LSU would have beat A&M. That would have been a lot better even for Alabama fans because you want to be able to beat a number 8 team rather than a number 6 team, but I don't think it matters. I mean, it's going to be tough to win on the road regardless. Milroe, 1,900 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Grant Nismeyer. I would imagine that this is the best quarterback that they play. I keep waiting for Alabama to play like a good quarterback. They haven't. And all the quarterbacks that show up are hurt or banged up, or they're not good. The quarterback for Tennessee, I was disappointed with him. I think he could get good, and he did hit on a deep pass. Wasn't impressed with him. The guy from Missouri, I was excited to see him. He got hurt. The Western Kentucky quarterbacks, those guys were really bad. South Florida, that guy's just a good athlete. Wisconsin's quarterback, he got hurt. All these quarterbacks get hurt in the first quarter. What other quarterbacks were there? Oh, Diego Pavia, that guy was a monster. That was like he was unstoppable. Oh, and Carson Beck, he had a really good second quarter. Other than that, the quarterbacks have been pretty terrible that Alabama's played. I would imagine that this is the best quarterback outside of Carson Beck that they'll face up to this point, right? Durham has 397 yards, and Lacey has 41 for 618. Aaron Anderson, that guy's good. I mean, that guy's good. And you're like, do you wish he was here? I don't think it matters. I mean, Alabama's so deep at wide receiver. It's just like, it would have been an extra piece to use. But, I mean, I'm glad, things are working out for him. The guy is absolutely unbelievable. Quality wide receiver for sure. I put together this detail this morning, kind of like the head-to-head. Lately, all the teams have been ahead of Alabama. This time, the sliding scale is kind of going towards Alabama. So total offense, Alabama number 38 in the country. That's up like 5 spots after Missouri. Total defense, that's up like 5 spots as well after the shutout to 44. Actually, that check mark up top needs to be to the other side. Let me fix that real quick. That's going to drive me crazy. So LSU has the better offense overall. At least according, you can look this up too. Go to if you want to look up the overall stats, just go to NCAA football stats, and then you can bring up every single stat. You can bring up like red zone, penalty, anything. I mean, just go NCAA football stats. So LSU has the better offense. Alabama has the better defense. As you can see, LSU's defense is 63. To put it to perspective, Tennessee had the number 2 overall defense, and Missouri had the number 9 overall defense. Right? Third down defense. Missouri had like the number 9. LSU has 79. This is where I started to feel pretty comfortable in term and more confidence in terms of liking Alabama in this matchup. Third down defense, Alabama is up like 6 spots to number 18. I mean, penalties, I guess that's just something that Bama's going to have all season long. They were ranked 129 last week, and now they're 126. Look, I haven't really the officiating in this last game was crap. There were some plays I didn't even know like the penalties that they were calling. 2 of them were really debatable, but for the most part, Alabama's those penalties have been like they've been fairly called. This last game, 2 of them were kind of trash calls, but all the other penalties, Alabama deserves them. Time of possession, Alabama is at 96, and then time of possession for LSU is 26. Jarvis, is this still right? Is it still 1.5 for Bama? See, but the interesting thing is, while LSU is almost a 2-point favorite, the matchup predictor has Bama as a 68. That's the rat poison. Against Vanderbilt and against South Carolina, it was, I think, like 92%. Something. I think it was like 98 against Vanderbilt. And same thing with South. You know who is the team that was a lot better? Clearly, Vanderbilt. But the team that was much better than I thought was South Carolina. That team was pretty good. That team, I thought they were good. I didn't think that they'd be good at all. They were good. That quarterback was like 7, and that's like an average quarterback, but of course he played great against Bama. What was it, like 72%? I showed this yesterday. I showed it again. Bama has a 53% chance, 68% chance to beat LSU, 80% to beat Brett Venables. They're not going to fire Brett Venables, right? They fired the offensive coordinator, but they won't fire Brett Venables yet. I mean, look, I thought he did a really great job with Clemson's defense. Just the SEC is crazy. And then Bama with the 89% chance against Auburn. I don't believe that. The Iron Bowl goes Bama's way in Bryant-Denny. But over at the barn, it's bananas. It's like 50%. You never know. I feel good about the game being at Bryant. The only thing is, this is the thing that scares me about these percentages. Kalen DeBoer is 0-2 on the road in SEC play. Right? Lost up in Tennessee twice. The SEC is just that. It's crazy in this conference. Brian Kelly's going to be tough to beat. His press conferences are pretty funny. They'll be good. That quarterback's been doing a lot better job. I mean, theoretically, they should. I mean, the losses come against Texas A&M against USC. They lost to USC at the first game of the season, right? That's when I was drinking the USC Kool-Aid, but that turned out not to work. Here's a reminder. We don't talk about that Mercer game, but that's that Mercer game that they have there. And I still think it will be tough, kind of a turnaround time, going to Oklahoma and then flipping around and coming back to Auburn. I think that'll be just tough on, kind of the wear and tear of you at the back end of the season. I thought it was going to get cold at some point, but clearly it's not. It's like 85 here again in Tuscaloosa. I would imagine up in the high plains in Oklahoma it would be cold. Maybe, probably not. I don't know. But the weather's been amazing here. You can keep the cold weather away. I don't like it. I wanted to look at the transfers. I swapped out on this graphic that I've showed before. I think I showed it during the last bye week, I guess before Georgia. I had Keon Sabb down there. I took Keon Sabb out because he's injured right now. So I put in Graham Nicholson, who I think is a good player to talk about today. We hear the transfers that have come into Alabama and some of their detail on how they've done this season. Jeremy Bernard up at the top, man. You know, he's had a really good season. This is a really good wide receiver. A lot better than I thought he was going to be. He's been really steady, catches the football. 30 receptions, 463 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Very quality. He's fast. He can make good contested catches. Yeah, see, Bill Murray, what's up, man? He lives in Norman. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, man. It's got to be cold up there. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's snowing up there at that point in time. Parker Brailsford, he's been great. I mean, think about this, and we don't even talk about this really too much because it hasn't been an issue, but there's no more snapping issues, right? There's literally no more. There's been like a high snap here and there, but like that's not something that we have to stress out about. So I put Parker Brailsford passing his pass blocking grade, which is 83.1. It's pretty good. And Owen, yeah, Milroe does have another year. Absolutely. But I recently saw some mock drafts that have him going as high as like, I think I saw him going 8. I can't remember where I saw it. I saw him going 8, and I think it was to the Raiders. No, Milroe is actually a junior. He's a redshirt junior. So Milroe could leave or Milroe could come back. I mean, I really doubt he comes back, though. The Raiders need a quarterback. I thought the Patriots did too, but, you know, Drake May's pretty good. Back to the transfer board. LT Overton has been, you know what? This might be, is this a hot take? Maybe not. LT Overton, is this a hot take? LT Overton's the best transfer that has come over this season? Is that, I mean, maybe it's not that hot of a take, but that's a take. Let me ask you, is LT Overton the best transfer that has come over to this point in time? What's up, Case? We talked about the basketball team last night. They beat Memphis. We talked about the season's not done yet for Alabama. We talked a little bit about Bama, LSU. LSU's defense is not like Tennessee's and not like Missouri's. And here we are talking about the transfers. I'm just saying right now that LT Overton, it seems like he might be the best transfer that Alabama brought over. Oh, I could Shadori to the Raiders, man. Look, I don't follow the Raiders, but that would be great. That would be a really great. I think that's wonderful right there. The Giants probably need a quarterback too. Wade World saying Bernard. Let me get a poll up. I think this is worth a poll. Give me 1 second. See if I can get this up real quick. And I'm talking about the transfers. So inside the comment box, what I want you guys to do is just basically list who you think the best transfer is so far for Bama. See if I can do it. I think I should be able to do it real quick. All right, so best transfer, you got Jeremy. Let me see. Do all this on the fly. What's up? We got 190 on. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm just going to say best transfer so far. And I'm going to list Bernard. I'm going to list, should I list Brailsford? Yeah, I'll list Brailsford. I won't add Graham. LT. And then I'll add Damani. Brailsford. All right, I just added that as a poll. So far, and I didn't list Graham. We'll talk about, we still got to talk about LT, Damani, and Graham here in a second. But you guys go ahead and vote in that. I appreciate that. I'm saying I'm going to say LT Overton. Oh, this is cool. And I just started let's get 5 super chats, and I'll do a Q&A after that. So far, you guys are saying Bernard. Okay. See, I was saying LT Overton, but I could see Bernard too. LT's had 2 of the toughest hits, 2 of the biggest hits. He smashed this guy from Missouri, right, on that call that was kind of questionable when he didn't hear the whistle. And then he crushed the guy from Wisconsin. Jeremy Bernard's a playmaker. He's been great, 1,000,000%. Really good addition. I didn't think that he'd come in and be wide receiver number 2. I didn't know that Ryan Williams would be number 1. Damani Jackson, look, I think – so the 2 best guys in the secondary, clearly Malachi Moore at the safety position and then Damani Jackson, period. And then after that, I guess we could, kind of debate it. I don't know. I mean, it gets pretty, there's a drop off after that in terms of talent and experience. But Damani's been pretty good. I think that Damani, he certainly showed he's capable to battle against receivers. 30 targets, he's allowed 13 receptions. So far it's Jeremy Bernard and then LT Overton. And a lot of people like Brailsford too, 21%. Okay, now let's talk about Graham Nicholson. I was kind of skeptical. I put a super chat goal there. 5 super chats is our goal today. I was pretty skeptical about Graham Nicholson. Really was. I think when he missed the kick against Wisconsin, I was like, oh man, we got some problems. I feel like my anxiety at the kicking position went down a lot in this last game where he hit 2 big field goals. Alabama needed him to come through and hit a 47-yarder. He hit it. He hit a shorter one from like 30 yards. He looks good to me. 4 of 6. I think that he's no Will Reichard. I think, honestly, it's a step back from Will Reichard, but not a huge drop-off. But I don't think that, from what I've seen, I don't think that Graham Nicholson is in any way, shape, or perform better than Will Reichard. And I think that Graham Nicholson beating Will Reichard last year was kind of a travesty because Will Reichard had an amazing season. This guy was playing at Miami of Ohio. Different stadiums, different environments. It's not the same. But I do think this guy's pretty good. He's no Will Reichard. You know who's really good is the punter, James Burnap. James Burnap is damn good. I would imagine that he might win. What's the top punter award? I don't even know what that award's called, but I hope he wins it. All right, let's look at the top freshman. This is the freshman report. The numbers up top are wild. Those are video game numbers. See, Timothy, you know what? The best thing that the Vikings did, too, was get Dallas Turner and Will Reichard. Timothy says that I haven't followed Will Reichard recently with the Vikings, but I know he won like a game winner. He's perfect so far with the Vikings. Yeah, it's amazing. Here's a freshman report. So you have Ryan Williams. I was wondering if he'd catch for 500 yards. He's going to catch for 1,000, 1,200 yards this season. 7 touchdowns. He's been on a little bit of a, I wouldn't say slump. He just, he hasn't had those big, 50-yard plus touchdowns in the last 2 games. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about at all. I think he's a play away from scoring every single time he touches the football. Xavier Brown, the guy has been thrown in. Kaysen with the super chat. Appreciate you, bro. Got 1 of 5. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Xavier Brown has been battling all season long from the jump. He even had a club on his hand. I love the story of this kid. 24 targets, 9 receptions, and big-time SEC play. He's a starter. He has over 400 snaps. Jalen Mbakwe, you know what? Jalen Mbakwe is getting ready. He's like this close to like just let him be in there. He comes in. 12 targets, 8 receptions. Red Morgan makes me a little nervous. He's fiery. He's fiery, but he makes me a little nervous back there. So, that Husky position that they have, it just makes me a little bit nervous. What's up, Chance? Appreciate you being here. Thanks, KTK. And thanks for the super chat, Case. What does Case say? LT would be the best transfer if we blitz more. Yeah, probably. Man, I thought last game he played fantastic. The game before, I didn't really see him play too. Like, something happened with him and Jahad Campbell because those guys were just furious last game. And Caleb Odom, I'm sorry if I missed it inside the comment box, but someone asked me about transferring for Caleb Odom. I would say probably not. And here's why. These guys are young. Think about the things that we say as like grown-ups after games. Right? You ever said something that you really didn't mean after like a loss or when you're upset? Come on. If it's not in like your real life, like after a game, whatever, we all say different things. So like Caleb Odom going to social media, which you shouldn't do, which he'll learn from. I don't think that, it points to the fact that he's going to transfer. I think it points to the fact that he wants to compete and he wants the football and he feels that he's at the level to be able to contribute, but you're not entitled to getting the football. You have to be able to bring in the football when it comes your way. We saw this from, remember Ajay Hall? The guy was going to social media. He was complaining. He wanted the ball, this and that. You get into a big-time situation. Ball was coming his way because of injuries. Couldn't catch it. And kind of the rest of the story, man. And his story. Not to say that it has anything to do with Caleb Odom, but all I'm saying is, it doesn't mean that he's going to, transfer. When you start seeing players like announce that they're transferring, then they're transferring. Like Jaheim Otis, who I still wish would have competed. I thought he was still, he's leaving too early. Now, he got beat out by other guys. I mean, James Smith he's having a great year. I wish he would have stayed and competed, but Timothy Satan, free Keon Keeley. Now, that's one that I'm watching in terms of like a transfer or something's going on there. Let's just ask the poll. We'll stop this poll right here. And I have no like intel. By the way, Jeremy Bernard is the best transfer, 37%, followed by LT, Brailsford, and Damani. Here's my next poll. Let's do this one right here. Will Keon Keeley transfer after the season? And again, I have no idea if he will, if like maybe there's some sort of injury we don't know about. I don't know. But it seems kind of like there's a little bit of smoke here. And that experiment for moving him to outside backer or the wolf to bandit didn't really work out. Do you think he'll transfer after this season? I guess I would say yes, just to just to say it, but I have no like insight on it. And a lot of these transfers are going to hurt. They're going to hurt. They hurt last year. It was like non-stop there for a little while, like constant transfers out. See, I mean, right now it's 60-40 saying yes. And I think those of us with yes are just kind of speculating because he's not playing. Where like that means he's going to transfer. That's what I'm saying. I'm just going off complete speculation. I'm going off the fact that he just hasn't played. He's played 3 snaps, so I'm like, he must be transferring. But I have no intel. I didn't see that he was hurt, Max. That's another one. Kendrick Law. You don't want to see that. That would sting. You don't want him to see him lining up somewhere else. You know who's having a really good season is Ja'Cory Brooks. Remember Ja'Cory Brooks? He was here, caught a big touchdown against Auburn. Didn't have the best season last year. I think he was injured a little bit too. But he's having a really good year. What's up, Whopper? Xavier Brown's going to be, I mean, by the time, you imagine how many, Xavier Brown is going to leave here with like 1,500, probably more than that. He probably have like close to 2,000 snaps or something like that in his career. Lynn Shannonfield in with a big super chat, $50, man. Appreciate it. 2 out of 5 super chats. Our goal today is 5 super chats. Lynn says, Kyle, this is for you and your travel out to see your family in New Mexico and the work you do in covering Alabama football. I don't think Keon will transfer. I think he's just picking it up as fast as they'd like him to. That could also be it. I mean, shoot, the guy's a redshirt freshman, but this is his first year in terms of playing that bandit position. Plus, he's behind Ja Latham. He's behind LT Overton, right? That's a really good point. I appreciate the support. Yeah. As I mentioned yesterday, my grandfather passed away peacefully in Clayton, New Mexico. This is my professional face, but obviously, it is impactful for me. That is my mother's father. He was 84 years old, married to my grandma for 65 years in Clayton, New Mexico. It's a small little ranching community in northeast New Mexico. So trying to figure out the service details. Talking to my mother this morning, it looked like it could be around the Mercer weekend, which is the 15th. So I'll fly actually into Amarillo from I'll go from Birmingham to Amarillo. So you probably connect in like Houston, and then Amarillo to Clayton is like, I don't know, it's like a 2-hour drive. If anyone's from like that area, who's been to Amarillo? Have you guys been to Amarillo? Yeah, he's a really good man though. Every single day he put in the work. Really manly, really masculine, not afraid to work. He was a builder, did everything with his own hands. And yeah, certainly a big loss to our family. He's kind of like that iconic grandfather figure. So I appreciate it, Lynn. Thank you very much. But yeah, there's that freshman report. Has anyone been to Amarillo? And the drive from Amarillo to Clayton is like through like, it's complete like cattle country. What do they have? What is it? Not Stripes. What is the gas stations that they had there? I'm trying to think. They were everywhere. Not Stripes. That's in Lubbock. I forget. I'll think about it in a second. All right. Here's my question for everybody. This is clearly the college football game of the week. Yeah, and Lynn, thank you so much, man. This is my question for everybody today. So we have 55 votes. I'm not even going to add a vote here because I would imagine that it's an overwhelming Ohio State poll. You can just keep voting on Keon Keeley. That's pretty close right now. 54% believe Keon Keeley will transfer. All right, so let's just do this. Type O if you think Ohio State will win, and type P if you think Penn State will win. Now, Penn State's quarterback is out with a knee, and he looks probably doubtful for this weekend's game. So there you go, another quarterback that will be down. And he's been having a pretty good season. I think I read this morning his QBR rating is like 86 or something like that. I'm going to type O myself. So I'm typing O for Ohio State. Ohio State favored by just 3.5. I'd probably take that points too. I would imagine that they win by like I don't know. I could see them winning by 10, maybe two touchdowns. And I get it. The game is in Happy Valley. It's a very challenging place to play. That I would love to go see a game there. That looks cool. The whole zombie nation, right? The whiteout. Owen, thank you I was just about to say this. Penn State, if I know anything about Penn State, is the fact that James Franklin, that they do not win big football games. They don't. Nate, I'm with you, man. They don't. That team, for whatever reason, they don't win big games. So, not really stressing about it. But and what I was showing is now you start to look at the teams that are undefeated, right? And the teams that are starting to lose, that's going to provide opportunities for Alabama to move up. All these teams can't stay undefeated. You see this graphic, Ohio State and Penn State are not listed. So let's just look at this. One of those teams has to lose this weekend. Let's just say it's Penn State. So they won't fall too far. I don't see Miami losing to Duke. In fact, they're a 20-point favorite over Duke. I don't see them losing against Georgia Tech. I don't see them losing against Wake Forest. And, man, the way that Kyle McCord played against Pitt, yikes, trending the wrong way. So you got to think Miami wins out. And it's going to be hard for the committee to leave out a 12-0 Miami team, but, they have to play in the ACC championship game. Even if they were to lose to, let's say, Clemson, I would still imagine that Miami gets in. Because if Clemson keeps winning, they would get the auto bye into the ACC, and then you have Miami in the playoffs. So 2 teams from the ACC. BYU, look, I don't know. They're not going to lose to Utah. Especially with Cam Rising out. I know it's a rivalry game. I just think BYU is able to win that game. I think they'll beat Kansas. I guess Arizona State too, and then Houston. So now you're looking at 12-0 BYU. Iowa State. That Texas Tech one could be interesting. Texas Tech, they play a little bit of defense. And maybe Kansas State is able to beat them. But again, 2 teams from the Big 12 head-to-head. And then Indiana, you got to think that they lose maybe twice, right? I'd be shocked if even – I get it. It's not the same Michigan team. I would just be really surprised if they're able to beat Michigan. And then I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. KTK, man, KTK's calling for Miami losing to Duke. Man, they're 20-point favorites. Owen, 1,000,000%, man. The team that nobody is talking about is Clemson. Nobody's talking about them. And Dabo probably loves that. The only game they lost to was against Georgia. I watched that game, and that game was I wouldn't say it was a stalemate, but there wasn't like a big difference at halftime. Georgia came out and kind of, took care of business on the back end. And then ever since that, Clemson's just won football games. Dabo's, has him, he's playing that underdog mentality. What are they? I think I have, what are they? Here's a look at the AP. Yeah, Clemson's at, they have them at, there's 2 teams that they had at 11. I guess they were tied or whatever, but you see what I'm saying. And that Notre Dame keeps moving up because Texas A&M keeps winning. So you can't put Texas A&M over Notre Dame because Notre Dame won. So basically Notre Dame's in first place of the SEC. Right? Because they beat Texas A&M in the first game of the season. And I get it. Like, Indiana's having a good season. I don't know. I think I think Alabama would do bad things to Indiana. Who knows? I don't know. Here's my top 10. I think I showed this earlier in the week. I have Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn, Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. I don't know where to put those Big 12 teams. And I saw yesterday people were talking about Coach Prime again, like that he should have a shot to. I think someone was it Stephen M. Smith that's saying he should have a shot at Bama. I don't know about that. I think it's admirable like what he's done, because I used to cover Colorado. Winning football games over there is hard. It is really hard. Oh, I don't know if Army will beat Notre Dame. I don't know about that. I think Notre Dame will beat Army. Oh, and I think that's the only thing I disagree with you so far. SEC standings. It's going to get, this isn't over. There is so much football left. I think it was Stephen M. Smith that said that about Coach Prime and Bama. Texas A&M, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Texas, Bama. Damn, that loss to Tennessee really just put Bama in a tough spot. Now, because even if Tennessee is able to lose, Tennessee still plays Georgia, okay? And I think they should win the remainder of and I think they play Vanderbilt too. That will be an interesting game. But let's say Tennessee finishes out with 2 wins, or just 2 losses. Their head-to-head over Bama would supersede that, right? Auburn got its first victory. Kentucky's 1-5. Oklahoma's 1-4, which is very surprising, considering they were like a top 25 this year. Ole Miss 2-2. I think they've been a little bit of a disappointment. They started out really hot. What were they ranked? Like 4 or 5 this year. Now just 2-2, 6-2 in SEC in overall. Look at Florida. Florida is fighting. I would have thought Billy Napier would have already been fired, but clearly not. I guess if I had to pick right now, I would imagine that it's Georgia and Texas for the SEC championship game. And I would imagine that I wouldn't pick Texas. I would pick Georgia win again. I don't think it was like a fluke game. I'm starting to think that Texas isn't as good as we've made them out to be. Am I crazy? I think they're a good football team, but I think that we like overhyped them a lot. I think they are beatable. I'm looking at the game against Vandy. I'm looking how Georgia pretty much beat them up and down the field. So I would imagine they beat Arkansas, Kentucky, A&M, and they get a shot at Georgia. Now, Georgia still has to go on the road to Ole Miss. I just don't think that they have enough in the tank to beat Georgia. And I think Georgia's playing as one of the hottest teams in college football right now just because of Kirby Smart. He's able to get that underdog mentality to the team. I think Bama beats LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn to finish out, 6-2? And that, what would that be, like 10-2 overall? You win out, you're in the playoffs, Bama. I think we all know that. I guess Vanderbilt could win out too. I don't think they will. Now that doesn't seem likely. I think those games would be close, but I don't think Vandy, they're at the bottom. Does anybody think that Vandy could string together for those games? I don't think so. I think they go 2-2 down the stretch. I don't know who they'll beat. I don't know who they'll lose to, but I think they'll be 2-2 down the stretch. I think LSU will lose to Bama, and I guess that's it. Right, Sean? Like, are you talking about Texas? I feel like they're a little bit overhyped. Good team, for sure. Good team. I would love to see Bama get an opportunity, to play them down the road again. But who knows? Well, I appreciate you guys being here today for my show, Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. This is the open week. Alabama doesn't have practice Sunday, Monday, today, which is Tuesday. They'll be back in action on Wednesday and Thursday, and then I think they might be open again on Friday. So you'll have, some interviews coming up tomorrow, and as news happens, we'll keep you posted right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We still don't have an update on Cole Adams, and I think Jalen Mbakwe should be fine. So in terms of injuries, Alabama's in a pretty good spot. That has been one of the things that they've been really blessed with. I think some of the guys are certainly banged up, like Jaden Roberts, that it's concerning to me. He doesn't seem 100% to me. There's some other guys that seem a little bit banged up. I think there was a narrative that Jalen Milroe might have been banged up. He said no. He told SEC Nation that. He was like shocked to hear that people were saying that he might be injured. He's not injured. Quincy, I kind of do think that Texas might be a little bit overhyped. Like I think at one point I saw Texas as like a sure shot, like number 1 or number 2. I don't know why I don't feel like that anymore. Maybe because they lost and Vanderbilt kept it close with them. I don't know. But, Quinn put together a really good game against Vanderbilt. What did he complete, like 17 passes in a row? Something like that? I don't know. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining the show. As news happens, I got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page, very active, Alabama Crimson Tide on Facebook. And news as it happens. This is the open week, but that doesn't mean that our show stops. I appreciate you guys being here and supporting the content. Thank you very much to the super chats. We almost hit our goal. We wanted 5. We got 2 out of 5, but Lynn came in with a heavy 50 in case, always supporting us. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for rocking with me. Please support all the other great content creators right here on that are covering your Alabama Crimson Tide. And as news happens, I got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Have an amazing day. One more time, coming to you from beautiful Hollywood, Alabama. Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. See you, fam.